Hello and welcome to Backlash. I'm one of your hosts. Thank you. As always, is my co-host Brian Mensing and Sam, the air conditioner Lens.
We can hear you, Casey. That's amazing.
Can you hear the air conditioner? Is it bad?
Yes.
Now it stopped. It stopped now.
It feels
Okay.
great.
We're good.
He's like, I can feel it all the way from here.
And you know
Yes.
who needs the air conditioner the most is the gentleman recording from his car, Mr. Travis Nye.
That's true, yes. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Happy to have you on. Travis, for the first time ever on the main show here, but obviously if you know anything about us, we've done numerous amount of shows from Travis's Magic Shop. And I guess first things first, let's jump into why we're doing the show this month. We are doing non-comic book superhero month here. Week number 2 of that, we're doing James Gunn Super from 2010. This wild and crazy movie we're going to jump into in just a minute. But before we get into that, we have to bring up why we're doing this again. SuperCon 2021 is just around the corner, just less than a month away. Now, and the reason we're doing non-comic book superhero month is because of SuperCon. You're going to get plenty of comic book fun that weekend, so we're going to throw a little bit of non-comic book fun this entire month. And one of the guests at this year's SuperCon is going to be Travis, so I'm going to throw it off to Travis first. For people that don't know who you are for some reason or another that listen to our show, explain who you are, what you do, and then what you're going to be having going down at the cons of Superness.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a magician. I've been doing magic for about 17 years, kind of coast to coast. Found my way to Sioux Falls, where I've opened up a magic shop and kind of stumbled into SuperCon accidentally. I was there just kind of working a trade show booth that, was okay. And then I stumbled off doing shows and performing for people in the lobbies of the Ramcoda when we had that. And then I found a vacant booth, so I set one up. That's pretty much it. And then from there on, they're like, we need to have you back. We need to have you back. And so I've been there every year so far. It's a lot of fun. And I've had a show on Sundays. That's kind of the family day that I perform there. And then I also have basically a small shop set up. And this year I'm actually going to be setting up a card throwing lane. So you can stop by my booth and learn how to throw some cards. Kind of like axe throwing, but playing cards.
Nice.
I know where we'll find Sam.
I was about to say, I might have to duck away from our film fest for a little bit.
Right?
I'm at least hoping every person that dresses as Gambit stops at that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Somebody asked me to show up to an event cosplayed as Gambit, and I'm like, I don't even know what the costume is anymore. I knew it was the trench coat, but then I seen like the big pink like foam chest pad. I'm like, we're gonna stray away from the pink. We're gonna might be a little bit more of a grungier Gambit this time. But it was still fun. So.
That would be the kind of thing that if somebody showed up as Gambit, I'd be like, here is your free deck of cards.
Yes.
Just to encourage a bunch of Gambit cosplayers to show up for no reason.
Right?
And if you dress up as X-Men Origins Gambit, we're going to kick you out of the con.
Oh, come on. You didn't like Taylor Kirsch?
He wasn't that bad.
He wasn't that bad, but the movie's horrible. But a movie that is not horrible is the movie we're talking about this week. We're gonna mix things up a little bit for this podcast. Travis does have another engagement to get to, so we're gonna skip the box office news till the end of the show. We're gonna jump right into the movie. That's a nice
Give you
surprise.
something to wait for. Hang on for the news.
Hang on for the news. We do have a fun stacked news, but first and foremost, let's jump into Super right away because we need to talk about Rainn Wilson because this is the first time I believe we are talking about Mr. Rainn Wilson on the podcast. Period. I don't think we've covered another movie with Rainn Wilson in it.
You mean you haven't covered The Rocker yet?
We have not covered The Rocker or House of a Thousand Corpses yet.
I forgot he was in that.
I was how have we not done House of a Thousand Corpses yet?
We'll wait for our eventual Rob Zombie series where I quit the show.
Or we could just wait until Emma Stone month and talk The Rocker. You know that classic Emma Stone movie?
Everybody's like, what's The Rocker?
The post Superbad where Emma Stone was just in random comedies for some reason or another, and you're like, why is Emma Stone in this?
Right.
I do. I have a major soft spot for The Rocker, but yeah.
Let's jump into this movie though, because obviously this is a movie that kind of has flown under the radar and become I would say it's in that cult hit category, as a lot of these movies that we were talking about this month are. I mean, thinking about this movie now, 11 years removed, you're looking at James Gunn, super director, super writer in terms of the comic book world that he is in now with Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad just a few weeks ago.
It's almost like he knows what he's doing.
Taking on this superhero property that was of his own mind, much like he did with his brothers did Brightburn with him.
Yeah, one of his, I think it was like a brother and a cousin did Brightburn. Yeah. And then just like a friend directed it, I want to say. So yeah.
So the way I pictured this is back when he made this movie. You know, still coming off of the trauma aspect of his career, going, nobody's going to give me a comic book property, so I just have to make my own. And with as crazy as Gunn is, he's like, I have a great idea. Let's see how people take to this one.
Yeah. Well, and the premise to this movie is interesting because it came out I think it came out within the same year as Kick-Ass.
Yep.
Which also kind of deals with the same thing of like a normal person taking up superheroism and being a vigilante. And I think both of them deal with that in very different ways. But I remember seeing trailers for both of these movies and being like, it's the Olympus has fallen, White House down of this, like, like it's just weird how sometimes years happen with that. You've got friends with benefits and no strings attached, just all that kind of stuff.
And the reason why Kick-Ass probably stuck more than this one is it was Rainn Wilson versus Nick Cage.
Yeah, well, and Kick-Ass just had a bigger budget, had a comic book that it wasn't like a huge comic book, but it had a comic book it was based on and all that. And like you said, star power of Nick Cage.
But even then, I had never heard of, or I'd never watched Super. But getting into it, the cast is ridiculous. Honestly, like it's got a great cast.
It does, It's just it was IFC, and I don't think they put a whole lot of marketing push behind it.
IFC doesn't usually do a lot of that unless it's more of they know it's Oscar bait.
Yeah.
That they'll start putting money into promoting and stuff like that. Otherwise, a lot of IFC things are just the low budget. We're just trying to make content, it feels like.
And that's such a strange thing because you would think if they would have put some of the budget behind the marketing, because I'm looking at the numbers for this movie and then we'll jump into the movie. $2.5 million is the budget. I'm sure most of that goes to like the cast of this movie.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because of how many different people you have in this. Mm-hmm. The opening weekend box office, $46,000.
Yeah, nobody knew about it. I don't think I knew about this movie until I saw that it was at Redbox.
Mm-hmm. Well, I rented it at Family Video after it had come out on DVD because it didn't even come in theaters around where I was living at the time in Iowa, and I don't think yes, it didn't come around here either.
No.
With the worldwide gross was less than $500,000.
Yeah, and that's a bummer because like this movie, it's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good.
I think it also rides the line of the fact that we're talking about an R-rated superhero film. Mm-hmm. That we were definitely before the time of people being able to accept an R-rated superhero film, especially since we're still in that infancy stage because we're only a couple of years from the entrance of the MCU and Marvel and all that stuff. Where we've had our superhero movies in the past, but we are not in the scheme of it like we are today.
Yeah, Avengers hasn't come out yet at this point.
Exactly.
Actually, I don't even think Captain America and Thor hadn't even come out at this point. This came out the same year as Iron Man 2. So it wasn't like superhero movies were like really blowing up at this time. And I'm not going to lie, this is probably James Gunn's least accessible film as far as like the content and the tone and just the very dark humor here.
Yeah.
Also least accessible in terms of ways to watch this because this movie is pretty hard to find.
I would just like to thank the Last Stop CD Shop for my copy of the DVD so I could actually watch this film.
Yeah. I had it on Blu-ray. I could not find my Blu-ray somewhere in the last like 3 moves that I've had. I don't know. I have no idea what the Blu-ray is, but
So we touched on the cast. Let's name off some of this cast. We're just going to start name dropping people because that's what this movie has. Rainn Wilson, Elliot Page, Liv Tyler, Kevin Bacon, Michael Rooker, Sean Gunn, Linda Cardellini, Nathan Fillion, Rob Zombie, James Gunn himself.
James Gunn's casting of himself in this is by far one of the best things that I have seen in probably 20 years.
And it's so funny because like I thought it was Sean Gunn at first when I was watching. Like they look so similar when they're like when he's in all the heavy makeup. I legitimately thought it was his brother at first. I'm like, no, wait, that's actually James.
Yes, I love the fact that we've got him opposite Nathan Fillion as the Holy Avenger for this aspect of these corny superhero Bible, religious videos that Rainn Wilson's character is.
The like after school programs.
Yeah.
Oh, very much so. Especially
Which
when we've
also
got Nathan.
kind of like looks like an underlying adult film when they show clips of
Well, especially when we get
something really seedy about it.
when we get the one scene where they're all dressed up like they just rolled out of a BDSM convention, that is literally the beginning of the part of the movie he didn't watch is when it turned into the porno and the music started playing.
They're just reusing the sets and the costumes that were already in the sketchy part of town that they were filming in.
Right.
That since we're talking about that, those cutaway scenes remind me of the 2002 Scooby-Doo movie where they have those scenes of like how cool kids act. Like this is how we talk.
Yeah. Yep.
And of course, you figure out a way to get back to
adult behavior.
I was reading, so I ended up finding this movie on Amazon. I ended up having to rent it. And I was reading some of the Amazon trivia on there, and one thing I didn't know is that Jenna Fisher actually pretty much got Rainn Wilson the part.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of cool that it still had that ties because she had relations with James Gunn, right?
Yeah, they were married for a while. They're still very good friends and everything, but yeah.
Yeah, and so he presented the script to her, and he's like, "Oh, you need to have Rainn Wilson do this," and I'm like, "That's actually a perfect role for him."
It is. This is probably my favorite Rainn Wilson performance. I mean, he's great as Dwight, and I love him in The Rocker, but like he's really good in this movie. He's really good.
His demeanor and his presentation just is like the perfect combination for who this character is outside of the superhero aspect. Just that very quiet and reserved and whatnot. That like I couldn't even picture somebody other than Rainn Wilson doing this here, And I'm not even, I will say, I've literally watched one episode of The Office, but I know him enough to know how he is like the perfect person for this.
Yeah, you've seen the memes. Like
yeah, exactly.
This movie is basically Dwight's like fever dream of him as a superhero.
If you're really, really familiar with The Office, when he's in that community night watch, the Nights of the Night, I feel like this is what he actually goes out and does.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I seen this and I'm like, great. This is either his alter digital ego of Second Life, or he's flying around in a computer program, or it's Nights of the Night. Like he's living his fantasy right now in Super.
Yep.
I kind of wish at the end of the movie it was just Dwight sitting at his desk and Jim like fucking with his desk somehow. He's like, oh, wake up.
Like flicking a paper football at him or something.
He wakes up and it's just a dream.
Something tells me that conversation probably was had.
Oh.
And the studio behind The Office is like, yeah, no.
We're not going to attach ourselves to something this gross.
No. They watch an early screening and they're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. You can just keep moving on.
That's funny.
Even his costume looks like a Dwight costume. Like whenever Dwight dresses up on like Halloween stuff.
It's so shitty. Like when I was doing the artwork for this episode and studying it, like it just looking like in at the picture and zooming in, it's like, God, this thing is like pieced together so horribly. Like there are so many seams here that just don't need to be there.
You know what that tells me, Sam?
Yeah.
That tells me that whoever they had on, obviously this is very low budget and whatnot, but whoever they had on for costumes,
Yeah, they nailed it.
They not only did they nail it, but you can't tell me that whoever the seamstress and or the designer, everything like that was not chomping at the bit in such aggravation because they're like, I literally have to dumb down.
Yeah. I have to make the shittiest scene work.
Yes, I have to make my shit. I have to make it look bad, and you can't tell me somebody, even a semi, low level, respectable, artist in the industry is like, oh God, no.
Well, honestly, grandma would have a hard time doing it.
As a designer, it's probably harder to make this suit than it is like Captain America's suit.
Yeah,
just to get it this bad.
The costume design is incredible on this, and I don't know, man. I genuinely, the fact that the costumes are so bad in this is just a testament to how good the costume designers are, because it's so set in reality. Like, I mean, Kick-Ass. The costumes look great is the thing.
But like you said too, bigger budget.
Yeah, and and that's more of like a heightened reality, where this like Super is very much, I mean, to an extent, is pretty down to earth. Like the violence in this is incredibly realistic and disturbing. Like it's not, I don't feel like the violence is very often played for laughs. Like some of it is. I think don't cut in line.
Oh, I think a lot of the violence is made for laughs.
Yeah.
Like, but in a very dark, this is a straight up dark comedy. Let's jump into the plot. We haven't jumped into the plot yet, and for a lot of people, I think they might not have seen this yet, or
they're like, what on earth are they talking about?
Why are they talking about Rainn Wilson in his stupid costume? What is he wearing? What is he doing?
One thing real quick about the costume, like every superhero movie has that like gradual build of what the costume ends up being, and I was waiting for that, but it's like, no, Rainn was just happy he nailed it the first time. Like, this is it. Like, I did it. Like, this is it.
That was Gunn. That was Gunn going to the designer, going, "You got $500. Go to Joann Fabrics."
Yes, whatever they have in the clearance aisle, get it.
Maybe go to a sports store, get some shoulder pads.
Right. At the same time, though, on the plot of the whole story, like as far as the violence side, I feel like any kid who feels like they should be a superhero needs to watch this. Like, this is like, don't be a superhero.
This is the requiem of a dream, but instead of don't do drugs, it's don't be a superhero.
Right?
Oh my God, that is a fantastic parallel.
Yes. This is your life. This is your life as a superhero.
And I do love the fact that if we're talking about the violence was playing into the comedy and whatnot, goes to show how well Elliot Page was doing their own in that respect, because at one point Rainn Wilson gets reserved, pulls back and whatnot, and she goes on, no pun intended, full on Wolverine.
Yeah.
And it's
did you see the acrobats in the living room? Like, oh my God, she was ready. She was born for that moment.
Black Widow has nothing on her.
Right?
Libby is a truly unhinged character. She is the more unhinged character to Rainn Wilson's character. And Rainn Wilson is straight up schizophrenic in this. I mean, there's he's literally having visions and voices that are telling him to do these things, and yet he's only the second most disturbed person in this movie.
Libby's the best part of this movie, and we'll get to Libby. Let's jump into the plot of this movie so we can explain why the hell is Kevin Bacon in this movie?
Because everything's better with bacon.
Everything is better.
I still don't
bacon.
know, but
Did you know actually? Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to be the villain in this, and he would not. He wasn't confirming anything, and so it was like a couple days before they started shooting, and James Gunn was like, "Well, this is a low-budget movie. We only have so much time. I can't afford to wonder." if Jean-Claude Van Damme is going to be showing up to set, so he just hired Kevin Bacon at the last minute. And I think that worked out pretty well. I like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but
I don't think
it wouldn't be
the same movie.
No, it wouldn't.
I don't think the
really
accent would have played well. I don't
No.
think that would have ruined it.
No.
And Kevin Bacon in this movie is very suave. Like,
Well, I was gonna say,
he's the definition of a prick. Like, I
Yeah.
don't see Jean-Claude Van Damme as a prick. Kevin Bacon in this movie is a prick. So speaking of this prick, Kevin Bacon, basically Kevin Bacon plays this drug lord who is getting ready to sell this widespread contraband of heroin throughout wherever this movie takes place. Rainn Wilson and his wife Liv Tyler work at this diner together. And basically one day Rainn Wilson comes home, his wife is not there. She ends up with Kevin Bacon as she is a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And this leads Rainn Wilson to believe that she has been kidnapped by the drug lord and dons the superhero costume that we all have been giving loving play towards. And he is joined by his soon-to-be Robin, which is Elliot Page's character, Libby, and the two go on this crime-fighting spree together, including telling people not to sell drugs, not to molest kids.
Don't molest children.
And
don't cut in line.
And do not cut in line.
Do not cut.
Shut up, crime. Like, that is the best. I don't even care. That is 100% the best superhero catchphrase of all time is shut up, crime.
I thought about getting my backdrop being that like movie poster artwork that they have where it has that as in the bubble quote.
Yeah.
Because you are correct. That's one of the best like superhero lines ever in any superhero movie.
Yeah, like it's perfect for what this movie is, but it's also just, you think about it and you're like, that's actually kind of a kick-ass superhero like slogan.
Yep.
It rivals "I'll be back." Like, it really does.
It does. It really does. I genuinely think as this movie grows in its cult status, we are gonna see like "shut up, crime" become one of those quotes that goes on like top quotes from any, you know what I mean? Like, I genuinely think this movie is going to turn into a classic someday.
Now I just want to see a YouTube video of somebody, they're down in Hollywood, they're filming, they come across Rainn Wilson across the street and just yell, "Shut up, crime" from across the street just to see a reaction.
Oh, he would love that someone still remembers
sure.
"Shut up, crime."
Dude, like, if I ever meet Rainn Wilson, that's the first thing I'm going to say to him. Like, look, I love you as Dwight, but shut up, crime.
The opening credits of this movie is like the first thing that really got to me of like, okay, this is the type of movie that we're in for. The whole time I was just imagining every one of these actors portraying the opening credits as themselves. Like, if it was shot in live action, like, just imagine Kevin Bacon dancing like this with Michael Rooker. I'm like, this would be amazing.
Well, the only question would be whether or not Michael Rooker could keep up with Kevin Bacon's dancing.
Yeah.
He'd have to learn a lot of moves from the Mr. Footloose. That's for sure.
I was gonna say we know that Kevin Bacon's a bit of a footloose.
That's the thing. Like, this has so many of Gunn's like frequent collaborators in it. You got Nathan Fillion, you've got Sean Gunn. Sean Gunn is not in this movie very long, like, at all. Which I guess
Sean Gunn is almost like the Clint Howard to Ron Howard.
Yeah, where it's like almost cameos and like that type of thing. Like, it's almost like James Gunn is almost like, look, I can't cast just, like, I can't play favorites or whatever.
He's the Ted Raimi to Sam Raimi.
Yeah,
a little bit
of like, you're just gonna play this little bit role and then help me out with all the other garbage I need done. Like,
yeah, he's almost like an assistant sort of type of thing. Yeah, and I mean, he does all the like motion capture stuff with different things, and like, I mean, he's the on-set thing for Rockets. I know he did Weasel in the Suicide Squad, and
he was two characters in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, because he was also Calendar Man in a smaller live-action cameo, and yeah. So I love seeing like all the James Gunn frequent collaborators pop up. I love Rob Zombie as the voice of God, like the voice of God that Rainn Wilson.
I will tell you that the cameo that I was I wouldn't even call it a cameo because it's an actual role, is wanting to see the introduction of Michael Rooker because I know the stats and I want to know how long he's going to survive the film.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he makes it as far as he did, I was like, huh, all right. So it's like the more movies that Rooker is in for James Gunn, it almost seems like the less and less time he has on screen. So now that we've done Suicide,
it's the early movies. He didn't have enough money to pay any other actors, so he's like, all right, Michael, I guess you're making it till the end, but you're still not making it out of the movie.
Yeah.
Right. Though I will also say, too, for the sake of Rooker, and especially we're so used to him nowadays, and clearly we know that in Suicide Squad that he had a very blonde wig on. We knew that. But it was weird seeing Rooker with that much hair.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, I even remember him from, like, you know, Mallrats. I'm like, you just look a little weird. Like, just shave it off, you know?
Yeah.
He's got to hide all that blood splatter.
He's really good in this. Like, him and Kevin Bacon, they definitely, like, they're scumbags.
Uh-huh.
But especially in, like, that third act, and we'll get into, like, the specifics later. But, like, the third act, there's some, like, hesitation in their actions. And some, like, you can just see it in their faces. They communicate a lot without having to say anything. And it's very, very good work from the two of them, I think. They're very at the top of their game in this movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the actors in this movie, they're kind of given a lot of free reign, is what I was picking up on. Of James Gunn is a great director, understands balancing both like the dark tone of this movie, the realistic tone, and the comedic tone, and I think having each of these actors understand that as well, as they all do so perfectly well in this movie, especially like towards the end. Kevin Bacon is the bad guy of this movie, but it's like I still kind of at least like watching you on screen. I might not like you as a person in this movie, but I like watching you on screen, and you're fun.
It's that Kevin Bacon charisma.
Yeah.
No matter what awful character he has played, because this isn't his only villain he's ever played.
Right.
But you cannot not like Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Like,
he's good at playing sleazeballs, but there's just something naturally likable about him to where, like, even when he's playing an awful person, you're still kind of like, you're cool, Kevin Bacon. You know, like, he oozes cool. I don't think he knows how to shut it off, you know?
Yeah. And
I think sizzles off him like bacon.
Yeah.
He's
like the Steve McQueen of this
greasy.
Generation.
What's that?
Ooh.
He's the Steve McQueen of this generation because, like, everything he's in, he's cool, you know? Like, Steve McQueen, everything he was in, he was cool. He oozed cool, and that's Kevin Bacon in a nutshell, you know?
It's that soft, sultry voice of his where it's like he doesn't even need to yell. No matter, I mean, even if he's talking down to somebody or he's being that evil aspect of him, he doesn't have to raise his voice.
The egg scene. He's such a condescending dick in the egg scene.
But I want Kevin Bacon to compliment my eggs at some point in my life. That's all I want.
He's awful in that scene. Like, you're like, God, you're an ass. But at the same time, I'm like, I would cook you eggs.
Right.
I genuinely think he loved the eggs, but he was such an asshole about everything else. But he did love those eggs genuinely.
Yeah.
It feels like that was not even
remembers the eggs. He's like, oh yeah, you're the egg guy.
Which I do love how that. Are we introduced to him, Rainn Wilson, as a cook before the egg scene?
I think so. Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah, because we see him in the diner long before that scene happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I at least like that they keep the crossover of he works at a diner and cooks eggs there, and he's a great. Apparently, that's why they're still open. His eggs are fantastic. That's why Kevin Bacon shows up for him. I'm sure that's why Elliot Page should show up too. Libby, I'm sure they all come for the eggs. Rainn Wilson's eggs.
Everybody needs Rainn's eggs,
and they're not the brown ones either. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that too. Are these the brown eggs?
I don't even know what those are.
I don't get that part at all. Like, but I don't eat eggs, so I mean, I guess like that makes sense. I don't know.
There's white and brown eggs, Sam.
Okay, sure.
Sam's
no
over here.
difference.
Sam's over here going, I don't eat I only eat plants.
Well, and honestly, even when I wasn't vegan, I didn't like eggs. I never ate eggs. So it was like when they were like brown egg, I'm like, what is that? What is a brown egg? Like,
I just love how that scene ends of just like, oh, when you see Sarah, just let her know I stopped by. I'm like,
it's like
what?
It's so
who is
awful
this guy
because
and why are you looking for my wife?
like he's getting like I don't know if this is a terrible word or not. He's getting cuckolded by Kevin Bacon, and he doesn't even realize it. Like it's awful. Like
Because he doesn't question it.
No, he's just like,
answers,
okay, this
"No,
is happening.
She's not here. You want some eggs?
Yeah, and it's just like, and it's so funny because like it also brings to mind like Kevin Bacon was in Crazy Stupid Love less than a year later, and like Steve Carell does that whole like drunken like monologue at the bar. Like I can't remember what Kevin Bacon's character name is, but he's essentially like, Kevin Bacon cuckolded me. Came into my home. He's sleeping with my wife. And I'm like,
Again,
hey, he did that a year earlier to Rainn Wilson.
again, another movie that was just that much better because of Bacon.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, where's the movie where he does it to John Krasinski so we can hit the Office trifecta?
Right?
Yes.
He's now the new Office whore. Like,
Yeah. God, that would have been great if they would have gotten him on The Office for a stint.
just walked in and it's just like a dead stare from everybody. Just,
He
What do
shows
you
up as
want?
Ryan's dad and steals all the girls from the Office.
right? Yeah. That or if he was I can't even remember who played Robert California, but it would have been great if that's Kevin
Oh,
Bacon.
James
Oh.
Spader.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it would have made those seasons watchable.
Oh my God. When they inevitably do the Office reboot or reunion or whatever, that needs to happen.
Make it so, Hollywood.
I don't know how we're gonna get back into this movie. Let's get back into it somehow.
Yeah,
some way. I want to talk about Elliot Page because I think Elliot Page is the best part of this movie as
Yeah.
Libby. Just this comic book employee who just seems like she does not care about her job in
Yeah.
the slightest. But all of a sudden, when a real life superhero does show up after her conversation with Rainn Wilson of
Yep.
him maybe writing a real life superhero. I just love this. She's just like this pure ball of energy that just rolls into this movie whenever she's on the screen. Literally rolls like cartwheels, a terrible cartwheel into this movie.
That's my kind of cartwheel nowadays.
And you know,
Yeah.
I love their like first mission together where like they're just kind of waiting for crime to happen. She's like, oh wait, there's this guy that like, what did he do? Like graffitied someone's
No,
car.
He
Right.
keyed the car.
Keyed a car,
He keyed a
yeah.
car.
He keyed the car.
And she's like, yeah, we should. And they like, she puts a freaking glass vase through his face.
So was
But
this
then
the
at the
guy? It
end of
might have
that-
been. It might have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, it
And then
might have been.
she's
like,
like,
that changed.
Yeah, she's like, I'm pretty sure it was
Well, maybe.
and
like,
and that like reveal of like she's just kind of a psychopath.
right? Like, I want to know the backstory of that. Like, why was she holding on to that grudge? Like, why was that the first thing that popped into her head? Like,
'Cause
let's
it wasn't
get
even
him.
her car. It was a friend's.
Because she holds everything to the chest, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you saw how much aggression and pent-up anger that she had once she put those claws on.
Yeah.
When she turned into her version of Wolverine, she's all like, I can hurt somebody now. And she let you know.
That just
I just love that pretty much all the crime in this movie is just really petty crimes that he's stopping. Too.
Yeah.
Like, sure, he's not. I mean, some of it is. It's. Again, we talk about the realism in this movie. It's very realistic. The stuff he's
Oh, yeah.
stopping.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
don't touch little boys. Don't sell drugs. And the best, don't cut in line.
don't cut the
That's right.
Yep.
That
And
moment
I
is so
love
shocking.
that scene. Yeah, because he comes back and the guy's like, who are you fooling? I know who you are.
And And just before he even gets all those words out, just whap right in the face, and you're like, "Oh my god!" And then he backhands the woman with the thing, and you're like, "What are you doing, man?"
Like, that's the first scene where we really see the repercussions of using a pipe wrench, I think.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, he's not really punishing people. He's just killing them.
Well, 'cause, like, the thing is the first couple times you see him use it, it's not as, like, graphic. It's
Right.
not as close up. And it's also people who, like, you know, it's the guy who's, like, trying to get the
Kinda
little kid in his
kinda
car. Like,
deserve
it's
it,
like,
yeah.
okay, yeah, like, you kind of deserve to get a wrench in the face. But, like, the guy who just cut in line, like, he's a dick, sure, but, like...
Just the fact that
Damn.
it just shows it and his head just like splits open right in
Right.
the center. It's like, oh my god.
I mean, it's not even as, like, that's more graphic than dropping a cinder block on somebody from 2 stories up. Like,
Which that part was hilarious.
That was great.
like, that was comical. Like, Looney Tunes, just like,
Mhm.
exactly what it would be. Like, you think it's going to be awesome, and then it's so, like, uneventful. You're like, all right, well, that's done. We're not going to do that anymore. We're just going to
Like, you
crack some pipe
definitely-
wrenches.
Mhm.
And, like, he definitely killed that guy with the cinder block. Like, there's no way he was getting up after that.
Nope,
And it's
not
like-
at all.
Every piece of violence in this movie is so shocking.
Right.
And it makes you laugh, but then you're like, but it's an uncomfortable laughter where you're like, oh my God, someone died. Jesus. Like,
Or like when Libby drives the car into
Sean
Gunn.
Yeah.
and then, like, she gets out and she starts gloating at him, like,
Yeah.
see if you can walk now, bitch. Like,
He had
what
the
are
little,
you
he had
doing?
the
It really
little,
feels
he had-
like somebody's yelling and making fun of a disabled person. Like, that's how bad it felt.
because he's not dead. He's
No.
probably gonna live, but he's never walking again.
no, he's like Mel Gibson's wife in Signs at this point.
Oh God.
He's
You're
not
in
getting back up.
broad daylight with people just like looking like,
With a
And
mom
then
and a
what do we
daughter
do?
just watching.
And then
Yeah.
the people start like cheering. It's like,
I also love the fact that she's going on and on and on about why you're not going to do crime or whatnot, otherwise they're going to come get you. But then they can't get the car to start.
yeah. That was the best part, was them like trying to start the car afterwards and drive away, and it's just not working. Oh God.
I just love the fact that throughout this movie, the whole purpose, obviously, of a superhero is to wear your costume. No one's going to recognize you at all. Rainn Wilson just does not hide the fact at all of who he is. He's so
Nope.
incompetent
except when he
in
shows
what he's
up at the
doing.
party wrapped in trash bags.
Yeah. There's a guy who looks like a hobo at the front door for you. And they show him, he's literally like, he's got like, I guess you would call it cowl hair. He's like wearing a trash bag.
Well,
And
you
it's, like,
got to
duct
hide it
taped together.
somehow.
And I just love like the scene right before he hits the wine cutter with a wrench, like his very clumsy change in the car where like the kid goes, "Mom, look." And it's just,
All you
like,
see is
his
ass in the window.
Oh my God.
That seems like the kind of scene that I feel that Gunn and Rainn Wilson censors themselves. This is like that was one of those scenes where I picture IFC going, you can't go where you want to go. Like, I pictured that was the kind of thing that would have been full on Rainn Wilson ass, where IFC is like, you need to put underwear on him.
I think after watching the Suicide Squad, the original version of that scene probably had some full-on dick.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
I think the underwear is just as funny because it is not. I would say it's not whitey tidies completely with Rainn
Right.
Wilson.
Yeah, but I also feel like it shows like his innocence. Like,
Yeah.
he just, yeah, like I feel like, yeah, it was obviously part of his character. Like, yes, I feel like that's what he would wear.
Yeah.
And why would he get completely nude? He still needs his whitey tidies on underneath the suit.
Yeah. How
He'd have-
often do you think
he'd
he
have
washes
super
the
underwear.
suit?
Never.
I was about to say, I don't think he ever washes the suit. I
Honestly,
think it stays in the back of his car and
Don't
gets
say- don't-
gross.
don't they make mention about that, about the odor or anything like that? I thought.
Oh, they might. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I have a question in this movie. So early on, when I think it's early in the movie where he's praying, and he sees Libby run by in her costume. Like, was she like masquerading as a superhero before she ever met him? Like, maybe just running around town as a superhero?
She might have been, honestly.
Like, I need that scene explained. What is he just seeing visions from Rob Zombie God, or is he actually seeing her run around town?
She's just like, I'm gonna cosplay today.
Yeah. Yeah, because like she definitely had that suit long before, because like she was like literally giving names for her possible sidekick. And it's like, your suit's not even red. Why would you be Little Crimson or something? Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And so I guarantee you she had that suit before the Rainn Wilson stuff, because it doesn't match. It looks like she literally just made the logo after, like, and put it on as an afterthought. Like, I genuinely think she had that costume laying around her. It wouldn't
surprise me if honestly it was the comic book store like mascot outfit.
Yeah. That's who it is. That's so great.
We're gonna say that's what it is.
That seems accurate.
Yeah.
I would just like to point out, because I actually wanted to bring this up anyways, the fact that, if it's the mascot outfit, we only see two clerks in the comic book store, her and Steve Agee, and you obviously know he's not going to fit into that costume. But I just like the fact that we have yet another one. We got Steve Agee, who's also a freaking collaborator with Gunn in this too. Short, sweet, to the point, whatnot, but it's enough one of those ones where you're like, ooh, hey, it's that guy too.
I love how he's the typical like stuck up like the like stereotypical, oh, this guy is a stuck up comic book clerk, where like he's like looking for the Holy Avengers, and Stephen G's just like gay. Like, oh god, this movie's incredible. It really is. Like, I love it, and I find that the third act so. I feel like the third act is where like all the violence up until that point has been incredibly realistic, but also like a little bit tinged with humor. And I feel like the third act is where it's like, this isn't funny anymore. This is a bloodbath, and it's like, oh god, like when Libby gets shot in the face, I think they used a very similar prosthetic in the Suicide Squad when Pete Davidson gets his face blown off. Because it was like, the first time I watched the Suicide Squad and I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's like from Libby. Like, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but like, I remember the first time I saw Super back when it came out, when she got shot, like, I was shocked. Like, there was a bowling ball that just dropped into my gut in that moment. And it stayed with me for the rest of that third act. Like, I feel like that's a turning point where it's like, this shit's serious now. Like, this is not, this is where the comedy ends. And like, this is the repercussions of a life of violence. I love that. I love that kind of almost tonal shift.
The one thing, like, so I watched the movie at my magic shop, and a customer came in right before that scene happened. So when I come back, Rainn Wilson, Frank, is just carrying Libby and puts her in the back of the car, and then you never see her again. And I'm like, what happened? Like, did she die? Is she sick? What? So I finished off the movie, and then I had to go back and watch it, and I'm like, oh, she's dead.
It is a holy
really
shit
dead.
moment. Yeah. It's insane, man. Like, that to me, that's the turning point for the rest of the movie, and it's like, oh, damn. Like,
do you guys think that's a turning point for people watching the movie too? Do you think a lot of people might be turned off by that? I don't know if I was turned off, but I was less invested. I don't care about Liv Tyler. I'm like, I would rather have seen Libby survive. But
Yeah.
I think it is a vital moment in this movie of, again, like Sam said, showing how real this movie actually is. Of, yeah, if this 22-year-old comic book store clerk showed up to this drug dealer's house with guns, yeah, their face is probably going to get blown off.
Yeah.
I think for me that it's turning is the other way, because it's more of he sees how real it is at that point. You know, before it's just a few people getting concussed and killed by wrenches and whatnot. He sees that and he turns. He's like, all right, bodies are going to drop. That's when he's grabbing the guns. That's when he's all like, you know, I'm going to take every person out. I enjoyed that shift in it, because it's like, you know, it makes it that much more real. You know, there's nothing funny-ish about what's going on, and that he basically takes the humor out of it and he makes it that much more realistic.
Yep. It's a literal, like, this is where we're going with this. This is the point of the movie. And I think the first time I watched it, I was kind of expecting something more humorous, maybe more in line with Kick-Ass, you know? Mm-hmm. And when that moment happened, it did kind of take me out the very first time I watched it, where I was like, oh God, like, I didn't like that. But I think that's the point. It's this bring you down to reality. It's been escalating up until this point with the slapstick and the cartooniness and just like, and that moment is the heartbreaker. That's it's the We Are Groot scene. It's the you know, the rat catcher monologue where she's got the rats going up on Starro. It's the moment where the emotion comes into play and you realize kind of what James Gunn is trying to do with this movie. I think he does it in all of his movies. And I don't know if this one works as well as some of those other ones, but it does work on some level, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I kind of felt, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think it works as well as some of the other James Gunn's ones, because I think I told Sam before we started that I really love 3/4 of this movie. That's kind of the turning point, because I think some of the character stuff they're going with Rainn Wilson's character gets muddled at the end of this movie. Of what's this movie really trying to say is what I'm trying to get out of the end of this movie, and I don't know what this movie's really trying to say by the end of it, because once we get to the end, he saves Liv Tyler. They end up kind of getting back together, at least for a little bit, and she ends up going to rehab and has a family all of her own after she leaves Rainn Wilson.
And he becomes Uncle Frank.
And he becomes... I don't know if I fully buy into she would have any relationship with Frank after this.
Well, and I don't know.
I disagree.
In terms of her kids hanging out with this psychopath who dresses like a superhero and beats people with a wrench, I wouldn't want my kids near him.
But at the same time, too, though, we have that small bit of progression of the fact that when they're back together and she gets her life back in order, you know, there isn't talk about him being the superhero. He's past that point in his life. He saw what the violence has done. He saves her. They're all good, everything like that, and to the point where, you know, they have a very healthy relationship when she moves on. He understands now, as opposed to the first time when he thinks that, you know, she's been kidnapped. Mm-hmm. You know, she left on her accord. They left on peaceful terms, everything like that. I think this ended in a nice way. I think you know, if it would have ended any differently, I don't think it would have hit as hard, you know, because of the fact that, you know, he was the support system that she needed at her worst. You know, there was a bit of that relapse that came from Kevin Bacon's character. He got her back onto that track and onto that path and whatnot. So, absolutely.
Well, and like, she might not be as judgmental about the fact that he has a violent past, because look at her past. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't in a good place either before she had these kids. You know, maybe in Rainn Wilson kind of helping her find her sobriety again, he found like something similar to sobriety, where he gives up the violence. He maybe seeks help. He's in a healthier place. And I think he is in a healthier place by the end of the movie, you know, and I think a lot of that has to do with the relationship with Sarah and her kids. You know?
And in those scenes at the end too, when you're showing that she's in a better place and whatnot, you know, she's conducting one of those meetings and he is in attendance of said meeting.
Yep. So
I just feel it's
yeah.
very rushed by the end of it. I feel like we
That's
need
fair.
one scene, like maybe they invite him to Christmas and that's how it ends. That's where Uncle Frank comes into it, and they can kind of have this scene together where they have this full understanding. I think it is, and it's probably a budget thing actually.
Yeah.
That they don't have extra scenes of that by the end of this movie, where it is kind of just relying on implied things and like the kids' drawings and stuff like that. But I also
So
think
what you're saying is not only was Unbreakable needing another scene, but now Super's needing another scene too, Casey?
That is exactly how I feel.
You know better than...
I know better than M. Night Shyamalan and James Gunn. That's what I'm saying. No,
Even just having him like suit up one more time and run off the screen or something would have been a good finish.
Yeah.
I would have gone like full like Joel Schumacher, Batman and Robin ending, where he's running with the spotlight behind him.
And he has
through a
nipples
cave,
on his suit.
and he has tons of nipples. He has more than 2 on his suit.
But you can see the
nipple.
stitching around them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're actual human nipples too.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
This is the
Super
prequel.
2.
The prequel to
Leatherface.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
honestly, though, even going back and, like I said, having to rewatch that ending there after Libby dies, I honestly felt that same drop, but I thought that it was going to end with a very real ending of Frank, Rainn Wilson's character, also getting killed. That would have been a strong finish, too, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have kept that realism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do
I
love
would have
how
gone for that ending too. Yeah.
I love how he kills Kevin Bacon. the like arrow shot into the nuts. And like you're just like, oh God, because like what comes out isn't all blood, and you're just like, like nope.
All the bacon bits start falling out.
It's just like, and then the you know, like his whole monologue. You don't, like, what does he say? Like, you don't sell drugs. You don't cut in line. You don't molest children. And then he just starts stabbing him. And it's like, it brings back a little bit of the humor, you know, because he's throwing like these 3 massively weird things together. But it's also like very disturbing.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know. It's almost like that ending is like James Gunn being like, remember, you're still supposed to be laughing at this, you know, like.
Right. The only thing that would have topped that is if he walks away, Kevin Bacon gets up and does one final kill shot to him, and he just says, "Shut up, crime."
Oh God.
I appreciate the fact that we got the payoff from that, because, you know, that's the only time we see that out from when he's first building his little projectile thing and whatnot, because you do think you're like, okay, we've used the grenades multiple times, which the grenade thing was amazing.
The pipe bombs that he built.
Yeah.
And it lets you like forget that he had the projectile, you know, because it's such a quick scene and it's earlier on. And so you kind of forget that it was even there. And then you see him raise his fist up between Kevin Bacon's legs, and you're like, no. And he goes, shut up, crime. And you're just like,
Also, what kind of gun and ammunition store sells a book that shows you how to make pipe bombs?
The ones in James Gunn's head.
Yes.
oh my God. I love that this is the movie that Disney saw and was like, we're going to get him onto a Marvel property.
Well, you know, just for the sake of curiosity, I did pull up his IMDb for that exact same reason, right?
Because Feige has said that is the movie that put James Gunn on their radar. That Super is the movie that did that.
Because, I mean, I look at it, and what I find the humor in is, in terms of features that he did, prior to Guardians of the Galaxy, we have Slither.
Yep.
Super.
Gross, and I love it.
Great movie.
We have Super, and then we have his contribution to movie 43. Like, you know, we're not talking about high level, like, you know, like when I went to go see Shang-Chi, you know, we have a preview for the Eternals, and we have from Academy Award winner, you know.
Yeah, Chloe Zhao.
Yeah. We don't go into Guardians and go from the guy that brought you Super and Slither.
Yeah. And I think that
But
was
I
a
don't
good
think an
move
Academy-
on Disney's part.
I don't think an Academy-nominated director could ever make Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, 100% not.
That's-
James
No,
Gunn
but-
will probably never win an Academy Award, but he is legitimately, in my opinion, one of the best filmmakers working today because he has a very, like, he has his vision and he makes sure that it ends up on camera the way he intended. Like, he navigates the blockbuster filmmaking, like, thing so well because both Guardians, despite being in a company that's notoriously controlling, both Guardians are unabashedly James Gunn.
Absolutely.
You know, the Suicide Squad, definitely a James Gunn movie. Like, I was shocked watching the Suicide Squad going like, they put 250 million into this? Like, that's insane to me. I love that movie. It's my favorite movie of the year so far. But like the fact that Warner Brothers actually put that kind of budget behind it, I was like, that never happens anymore. That never happens, you know?
I will also say, you know, going out of this and, you know, finally going from low budget to budget that Gunn has done and whatnot. I mean, if you really look at the movies as of late, especially in this kind of genre of film and whatnot, he really has changed how the movies are approached because, like, when he was writing the Guardians movies, he wrote those movies with the music specifically in mind.
Mhm.
And everything since then, between his Guardians movies, Suicide Squad, you and I both saw it in Cruella. We saw it in Black Widow, everything like that. Like, the movies have shifted into the fact that there are, you know, this music that is basically being incorporated into these films that I don't know if we would have seen the kind of existence we do now if it wasn't for the fact that Gunn did it back with the first Guardians.
Yeah. Because he definitely kickstarted that train. Like, obviously, movies have had soundtracks for long periods, but not to the extent of like what Gunn did, where the soundtrack is an integral part to the movie. I know no one has a Walkman in the Suicide Squad, but like those songs, you can't listen to them without it recalling a moment from that movie. You know, like I can't listen to Hey by the Pixies without thinking of the fight scene in the rain with King Shark tearing the guy in half, you know? Like, I mean, and that song was around long before this. Like, I was listening to the Pixies before I ever watched that movie, and now it's ingrained in my brain, you know?
That's where I would be kind of curious as to see, you know, if Gunn would have had the budget and the mindset back when he did Super, what kind of music
songs would he have put in?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, you figure at $2.5 million and whatnot, there's no room for budget for music outside of your traditional score.
Especially when you've got actors like Kevin Bacon and Liv Tyler and, you know, Rainn Wilson. I'm sure he wasn't like super expensive, but he was pretty popular at the time from The Office.
I was gonna say,
You know,
It would just be an entire Aerosmith soundtrack because of Liv Tyler in this movie. I'm gonna, not to cut us off, before we let Travis go here, I'm gonna get the final question I always ask out of Travis first. If you're gonna pair Super with another movie for a double feature, what other movie are you gonna pair Super with?
Oh man, that is tough. It kind of stands alone, honestly, for anything else that I've watched. So I mean, any of those kind of inspiring, like real life, but yet so far outlandish that nobody would follow through with it type of movie would work. I would have to say, it's not on the tip of my tongue right now. It's that zombie movie with oh my
You
god,
talking
Woody
Shaun of the Dead?
No, Woody Harrelson.
Zombieland.
Zombieland. Yeah, I would put it along with that probably.
Yeah.
That would be a good
Great.
double feature. That would be a great double feature. I would watch the hell out of that. Yeah.
So they're two different movies, but they still kind of have that same lighthearted seriousness to it.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say tonally they're very similar.
Yeah. I dig that. That's a great double feature.
All right. Travis, do we have to let you go?
He's so quiet.
I know. Travis, do we have to let you go? I think so.
We
Travis.
lost him. Can you hear us?
It is. It's raining out. Travis, do we have to let you go? All right.
I guess so. Bye.
Yeah, we'll have to let Travis go. I think we're losing connection on our end with the rain. So, Travis, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk soon, and we'll continue with our show here going on. So, guys, what about you two? What's your movie you're going to pair with Super?
Man, does
honestly,
anything work except for another James Gunn movie? You know what I mean?
I was gonna go.
Zombieland works.
Zombieland does work. Zombieland works. I would almost pair this with. I don't think Brightburn is as good as this movie, but I would almost pair it with Brightburn just because both of them kind of have that Gunn flavor. But Brightburn is different enough, but they deal a lot with the same kind of things. I would say I would double feature this with Brightburn.
I was actually kind of thinking in terms of if staying on the superhero line of thought and whatnot is to pair this with like Deadpool, just the over-the-top violent comic book style.
I could see that
film and whatnot. Obviously, Deadpool is based off of an actual property and all that stuff, but I mean, for the same instance that Rainn Wilson really does give Super its character as much as Ryan Reynolds does for Deadpool.
Strike that. I want to change mine.
Okay.
I want to do a Rainn Wilson double feature. We're gonna pair this with The Rocker.
Okay. I'm gonna go with that too. I want to go with a Rainn Wilson double feature where he's also kicking ass. This time against little zombie kids in Cooties.
Oh my God! Yes.
Oh my God!
I forgot about Cooties. That is a great double feature. Oh shit! I love Cooties.
I need to get Cooties watched one of these days. It's been on my watch list for a long time.
Brian, it's ridiculous. It's so good. It's so good.
I mean, when I'm seeing stuff like, Rainn Wilson and Elijah Wood and Lee Winnell, I'm just like, you have my attention.
Lee Winnell is like maybe the funniest person in that cast. And that cast is stacked with good comedic actors. You got Allison Pill, like you said, Elijah Wood, Rainn Wilson, but like Lee Winnell just like he nails it in that movie. Oh,
all right,
God.
All right.
Now I want to watch Cooties.
Cooties rules. Should we jump into our normal? I think we lost connection with Travis, and
I think we did.
There he is.
Oh, hey.
All right.
Hey.
We're gonna give Travis a proper send off here.
All right. I had a phone call come through, and then my AirPods died, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And now it's raining, so cool.
It is raining. Travis, do we have to let you go, or are you still good to continue?
Yep. No, I'm gonna take off.
Okay.
Perfect timing for this. I'm right across the street from the Orpheum. I gotta go do a rehearsal thing with them.
Cool.
But no, thank you guys. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate you making me watch a new movie. That was definitely an eye opener. I've watched The Office and The Rocker. That's the only Rainn Wilson stuff I've watched. So Super was out of my norm, but it was definitely fun to watch.
Yeah.
Follow that up with the House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
Or Cooties.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cooties is great. You should check out Cooties.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on it.
All right, Travis, thank you so much. If people want to follow you online quick, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so you can either just Google search Magic of Travis Nye. I'm kind of on all platforms. If you're in the Sioux Falls area, definitely check out Spellbound Magic Shop. That's where you guys normally go live from, doing all kinds of shows. And just a quick shout out, October 8th, I have a comedy night coming up with 8 comics coming through, so that'll be a lot of fun too.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Travis. Don't get too wet jumping in the rain. I can already hear it outside of my window right now. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon. And, of course, we'll see you at SuperCon as well.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks Travis.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, let's jump into the box office and the news then, since we're doing this entire flip-flop show here.
We're a little backwards.
We're a little backwards. Hey, this might be the new normal coming up. Spoiler alert for the show.
Oh my God, Brian, hold on. Pull your cup up to the screen again.
Oh yeah, it turns invisible thanks to my green screen.
That's awesome. I love it.
Is it a blue lid?
No, it's green.
Oh, that makes sense. All right, let's jump into
the green screen.
Let's jump into it. Let's jump into the box office. Comic book movies. Hey, look, they make a lot of money. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, numero uno this weekend at the box office. $83.5 million for Shang-Chi. Very impressive opening weekend. I think we talked about it last week. This might run the gambit for all of September at the box office. I think with an opening like this, yeah, you're probably going to be doing pretty well for the box office of September.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, I was expecting it to be at number one. I was not expecting it to put up these kind of numbers.
But I have a follow up to that though. This is the first Disney movie that was not dual released with the $30 premium access. So if you run the numbers based on quote unquote Disney has said, which obviously we'll take what they project as their numbers with a grain of salt. This is about 6-7 million less than Black Widow, because Black Widow came in at 60, but they claimed another 30 on Disney Plus.
And I mean, that's quite impressive for this movie to fall within a $10 million range of Black Widow, an established
because Black Widow's
character.
An established character.
Right.
Shang-Chi is brand new. It's not one that'll it's a little bit like Guardians, where not a lot of people knew about Shang-Chi before, as far as general audiences go before this movie.
Yeah.
I think this is a massive win. I mean, because it's overperforming for Labor Day weekend even. Labor Day weekend is not historically great for movies. Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween actually held the record up until this weekend for a Labor Day weekend opening. And
poor Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
I will say that the fact that we're talking about the kind of movie we are, because call Black Widow the introduction of Phase 4, whether you do or you don't, this is your introduction to Phase 4.
Yeah. This is a much better introduction to Phase 4 because it actually moves something forward a little bit more, I think. And it introduces a new realm of the MCU.
I was going to say, I argue the TV shows were the start of it.
Well,
because of how much they introduced in it. But again, for live action movies, yes, for all intents and purposes, that's what I mean. This
is the introduction of Phase 4 for the sake of the film side of things. You're absolutely correct. The shows are definitely doing their thing over there, which have been great. What If has been great. But the fact that, like you said, Sam, this is, in the same vein of Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy and everything like that. But then on top of it, too, we're getting into this movie does not perform to the same formula that we're used to when it comes to the MCU. Now we're getting in more, there was the mystic stuff in terms of Doctor Strange and whatnot. We're getting full into that. We have an Asian-led. Yes, we have a very Asian-led film and whatnot. And I do absolutely think that this is not only is a respectable number, but I'm happy to see that these numbers are coming through, that people are coming to go see somebody who they're like, who the hell is Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi, sorry.
I'm just impressed that the box office itself is doing this well. This entire weekend is a very strong box office weekend. We haven't had a whole lot of those in the last 2 years, that's for sure. So it's nice to see that we're going to have this, and maybe this will show some of the studios. Maybe we'll keep some of these Venoms and all the other ones that they're thinking of pushing back to next year again. I mean, we didn't throw some of those in the news, but Top Gun moved to next year.
Yeah,
I think now is a good time.
Put them out,
I think now is a good time to at least. You're just gonna have to throw some of these movies out there, like James Bond, especially. I'm like, you can't push that back any further. You have to just kind of release that movie.
I don't think they are. I think this movie. I think Bond is coming out in October, hell or high water.
Yeah. I think MGM is just running into that. MGM doesn't have much of a choice at this point.
No. Well, I mean, aren't they? Because they're looking at a day and date streaming for the Addams Family 2, aren't they? Did I hear that right?
I don't
know. There's a PVOD, a dual release type of thing. I just want to say real quick, I'm not burnt out on the MCU entirely, but I do feel especially with all the delays that have happened, for me personally, I was a little bit I'll get to MCU movies when I get to MCU movies from here on out. I know we're doing a Patreon episode for it, so I decided to see it Friday. because I've been out of town this weekend. So I was like, well, I might as well see it Friday. I don't know when I'm going to get to see it otherwise. And like, it made me happy to report that this is a really good MCU movie. Like,
Save your thoughts. I have to pay for your thoughts,
Yeah.
Sam.
yeah. We'll talk
Speaking
about
of-
it on the Patreon. I just more mean like, because I really like this,
You were-
I'm really happy to see it doing this well. And I hope it continues to have legs. And yeah, for more of my thoughts, you can join us on Patreon.
Speaking of Patreon and movies we've talked about on Patreon, number 2, Candyman. Hey, that's up on our Patreon right now, patreon.com/backlash605.
That's not a bad second weekend drop. I haven't looked at this is the first time I've seen the box office numbers.
So this Candyman took in $13.4 million week number 2 for Candyman. This is pretty impressive for this movie. It's still doing pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
Word of mouth and people getting into the spooky season. This is really the first horror movie you're throwing into. I think end of August, early September, that first week right inside there is when people are starting to get into the Halloween mode. And so this is perfect for this movie. And I think we're going to look at an impressive Halloween Kills number to compare it off to next month as well. So Candyman doing well, $13.4 million.
I can't complain.
All right, let's move to number 3 then. Free Guy. Hey, this is really impressive. $11.17 million for Free Guy.
This movie's gonna have legs, man.
It does.
I think it definitely does because it's all Ryan Reynolds. I mean,
It's Ryan Reynolds. It's the family-friendly aspect of it. Like it's
movie's
a very
good.
good movie. Yeah.
I don't care what Casey says. It's a good movie.
I'll never watch it.
That's
Speaking
fine.
of movies I'll never watch, Paw Patrol the movie, $5.22 million for Paw Patrol
that
the movie.
Paramount Plus premiere isn't eating into this box office, is it?
Oh no, let's get the kids out of the house. That's what this is.
Really? I think this number should be higher.
Oh, really?
You think so?
I do think it is a little bit of let's get some of the kids out of the house, but it's like this should overtake Free Guy. If we're talking about family movies, Paw Patrol being an animated movie should be doing pretty well at the box office compared to this.
Maybe it's that I'm not a parent and I don't watch kids shows at all, but like Paw Patrol as a show wasn't even on my radar. So when they were doing a movie, I'm like, is Paw Patrol really that popular?
Paw Patrol is massively popular.
See, and I don't know. Like, it must just be like a blind area for me because, like, to me, like, it's not even on my radar. So, like, when I found out they were doing a Paw Patrol movie, I'm like, that's gonna not do well. And it clearly proved me wrong.
It's one of those ones where for them to make this movie was zero effort because they already had all of the technology, all the characters. All they basically had to do was write it.
Yeah.
They already had everybody else to basically make the movie. Essentially, like I've said before, it's just a long form episode to the film. As somebody who's got almost 7-year-olds, I've watched a Paw Patrol episode or two, so I knew what it was beforehand and whatnot. But I think with the whole Paramount thing, maybe it has something to do with it here. But I think this is the kind of thing that even though it has a theatrical release, I don't think they're expecting. I don't think there was a lot of expectation on the theatrical side, more as putting this on Paramount Plus to get people to subscribe.
Yeah.
For the children's content.
Well, and I'm sure like the budget for this is probably not that huge.
That's what I mean. Like
I would guess over 100 million.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, the animation doesn't look like
it looks like the cartoon.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's not Pixar level by any means, but I guess I don't know. Maybe. I said, I don't know anything about Paw Patrol.
They're like they're dogs and they're like firefighters and police officers. I think.
Let me speculate on this children's movie that I have no intention of seeing, nor have I seen any of the things building up to it.
What was your quote unquote budget for this film?
What is it?
I was asking you.
I said like 100. I said 100 million.
26.
Yeah. See, that doesn't surprise me.
Maybe the studio didn't put in. I think in a different timeline they would have put a lot more money into this movie. But that could be why they throw in it on Paramount Plus to get those subscription numbers and build that up for that.
Yeah.
Getting a monthly subscription out of people with kids is probably more important at this point for Paramount than releasing it in the theater.
Yeah.
That budget would have been bigger if it would have been an original property that wasn't already established as a 3D cartoon.
Yeah.
Because like I said, all of that CGI, all the model building, all that stuff that would be $50 million to make a movie has already been done for the last how many years that the Paw Patrol's been a show.
Yeah, it's not like they were trying to redesign Paw Patrol for the movie or anything like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it would just be the same instance of all the animators that made all those Scooby-Doo cartoons that you watched when they made the Scooby-Doo movies.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the live action Paw Patrol movie. Let's make it happen. Starring probably this guy, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, is Paw Patrol. He is Chase. That's the only one I know.
He can't voice another dog. He's already doing that in the DC Super Friends or whatever, Super Pets.
He can do it again. He's the Rock. Dwayne Johnson, number 5 here. Jungle Cruise, $5.2 million for Mr. Dwayne Johnson and Miss Emily Blunt.
That is also available that you can buy on VOD now too. So I mean,
but here's what I'm gonna say.
Can't wait for it to go on sale.
I was gonna say wait 2 months until it's on Disney Plus.
I was like, wait until it's on Disney Plus for free, or if you really want to see it now, go see it in the theater because it's gonna be cheaper than $30. And I'm gonna be honest, this movie's fine, but it's not $30 good.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's fine. For now, until it becomes free on Disney Plus, you could just watch the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and it's essentially the same thing.
I'm gonna pull the Cruella route, which I finally watched on Disney Plus this past weekend. And
I saw your review,
Plus.
and you're wrong, but okay.
I gotta see this.
It's fine. It is fine.
You're fine, okay?
It's fine. I love that Emma Stone is trying her best with her high school British accent in that movie. Moving on to the news.
They needle drop Iggy Pop. That alone makes it a 4-star movie, Casey.
I was going to say, Andy Heller is going to be yelling at me right now. I can already hear him screaming through his headphones at me. But let's move on to the news for this week. Speaking of Jungle Cruise, Brian, what's the first piece of news that we got?
Oh, you mean that thing? Because as much as you guys seem to be hating on Jungle Cruise, obviously
I
Disney
hate Jungle Cruise. It's just not that good.
Well, it's enough to get a Jungle Cruise 2.
Yes, because the general public likes average movies.
This was going to happen as soon as they announced Jungle Cruise with The Rock. They're like, "Yeah, we're going to make a sequel."
Yeah,
it's fine. I'll watch a sequel. It was good enough to where I would watch another hour and a half of Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt fight CGI whatevers. I don't know.
So here's what I'm kind of hoping is that if we keep our hooks in Emily Blunt long enough, that we get John Krasinski and have those two be part of the Fantastic Four, I'm completely okay with
Emily Blunt won't do it. Guarantee you she won't do it. She is so anti-superhero movie, and that's fine. But I don't think we're ever going to see her as Sue Storm.
A blank check will probably change her mind on that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Having her husband do it. Also, let's just throw The Rock in there as Ben Grimm.
To it. I was going to say is I want The Rock to play the thing.
Yeah.
And okay, bring back Michael B. Jordan for the Human Torch because he deserves a good Fantastic Four movie. He does. I was so mad. Of all the people to screw over, not Michael B. Jordan. Not him.
I say everybody involved with that movie deserves a good Fantastic Four movie.
They do. Yeah.
Everybody just needs a do-over.
The cast is great. The director, I love Chronicle. I love Josh Trank's Chronicle. It's great. We're going to be talking about it.
Capone was the greatest movie of 2020.
I haven't seen Capone. I do want to see it, though. I really do wish that Fantastic Four movie was better. So yeah, if they do it, Marvel, I know you're doing Fantastic Four. I know you got John Watts, who's kind of a boring director to do it, but whatever. Bring back Michael B. Jordan, please. Dear God, do not cast Timothy Chalamet as the Human Torch, because I know with you casting Tom Holland as Spider-Man, that's probably where you're going to go. But we don't need a Timothy Chalamet Human Torch.
They're the only two young white actors in Hollywood, though, Sam.
They are. I know. I'm just... At least put Lakeith in as the Human Torch. I'm so mad about Wonka, man. I'm so mad about Wonka.
I'm just trying to just picture Lakeith Stanfield as the Human Torch.
I think he'd be great.
I think he'd crush
I'm
it.
not saying
everything.
I'm not saying he'd be bad at it. No, you're absolutely correct. He's great in everything he does. But I'm just trying to picture like what version of Lakeith Stanfield do we get as the Human Torch? Because he is.
Sorry to bother you, Lakeith.
Not
I
Get Out,
unabashedly
Lakeith.
love that movie. I love Sorry to Bother You.
Of course. Only hey, if that's the case, if we get Lakeith Stanfield as the Human Torch, I only want him to be voiced over by David Cross then.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Or let's just make David Cross Dr. Doom.
Oh,
Mind
Yes.
blown.
I want that to happen.
I love David Cross.
If-
He's great. He's great.
if we don't get David Cross as Doom, can we at least get Bob Odenkirk?
I was about to say, we need to find Bob Odenkirk a role in this now.
He can be Mr.
Marvel.
Fantastic.
We could become consultants. Like, Marvel, hit us up.
They're like, what is
We've
this
got
movie?
great ideas.
Lakeith Stanfield and David Cross?
We could, oh my God, we could change it. And Dr. Doom could be the Doom twins. And it could be Bob Odenkirk and David Cross as two Dr. Dooms.
Dr. Doom
We'd
presents
piss off the
Mr.
comic
Joe.
book purists, but it'd be awesome.
Dr. Doom and his brother, Mr. Doom? I'll let you decide which two of the actors can play those.
Oh,
too
it's
funny.
clearly going to be Bob Odenkirk with the PhD.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
David Cross is the Doom brother that's like in the parents' basement still smoking pot.
So should we get on to the next piece of news? 'Cause
Yes,
obviously we
probably.
don't-
Let's
Because I'm
do
just
it.
spiraling at this point.
We'll speculate
next-
on the next two pieces of news, too.
Right? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Oop, there we go. Heading to Netflix. The first question I had in the group when this was brought up was, did Sony dump another piece of product on Netflix? But this is not a Sony thing. But is this just basically is Netflix going, we want to try to get some more horror, especially something like a franchise like this? Or is it just like, we don't think this movie's going to have the legs we thought it is going to after Halloween, so we're just going to try to, break even? Like,
Well-
I don't know how I feel about this.
Here's the thing. I love going and seeing horror in the theater. Like Candyman in the theater was cool. I'm very excited to go to the theater for Halloween Kills.
Mm-hmm.
But I also love watching horror at home with the lights off, under a blanket, and just like with a nice cup of pumpkin spice, something or other.
Okay, you hipster.
And I'm not a
I'm with-
hipster. I'm a
with-
basic bitch. Okay.
I'm with you, Sam.
And so like to me, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre going to Netflix, I've never seen a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie in the theater before. Never. It's always been like at home viewings. And I love the movies that I've seen of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I feel like it coming to Netflix is not a deal breaker for me. I'm kind of excited about it actually.
I mean,
sometimes
for-
like those
for
Netflix
me, it's not a
horror
deal breaker.
movies. Yeah. And like honestly, if I ever want the theater experience, or if you guys ever want the theater experience, we'll just rent the theater room in my apartment complex and we can watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre there on a slightly big screen without the possibility of someone coughing or talking through the whole movie.
Why don't we do this every week?
I don't know. We should. Wow.
See,
flipping
I'm
my
I'm
headphone
of the
cords
opi-
anymore.
I'm of the opinion I was going to watch this movie either way, obviously. But
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like Sam. I haven't watched a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie in the theater, so it would have been cool to do that. But the fact that it's heading to Netflix, which is not a bad thing anymore. It used to have this stigma of like the straight to streaming thing, and obviously that's not a thing anymore. But I think for this movie, this is showing that the studio doesn't have confidence in this movie.
That's
And
how I feel.
I think Netflix picked it up cheap, and with how many things we've gone through with this movie already, of they had a director shot for a week, fired him, and then they restarted over. I was like, we're already off to a bad start with this movie, aren't we? So I'm hoping for the best. I do not know what to expect with this movie. From what I've heard, it is going the Halloween 2018 route of it's a sequel
It's
straight from the
74.
original. So again, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm just hoping it's like Don't Breathe 2 of I have zero expectations for it, and I'm just blown away by this 2021 schlock garbage horror movie that I absolutely love.
Well, that's the thing. Bad horror movies are still great. Like I've never watched a horror movie that like I didn't at least enjoy on some level. And I know
We'll
that's
find you
because
one.
I love horror, but like, oh wait, never mind. I watched Inside.
A 4-star movie.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say, man.
We just talked about Rob Zombie's Halloween, and we're not throwing that out there.
Rob Zombie's Halloween has hints of a better movie in it.
It does. But
Inside does not.
His Halloween 2 does not.
Yeah. Actually, I like his Halloween too.
All right, Sam's kicked off the
much.
show. Let's move on.
If Sam makes
don't-
you feel better, we'll kick him off.
No, the thing is, like, this might be a garbage movie. Texas Chainsaw, the 3D one with Alexandra Daddario, that was a garbage movie. I
It
love
is.
that movie. It's so bad, but I'm like, it makes me laugh every time. The go get him, cuz. Like, what?
Okay, maybe I shouldn't have any. I love the Matthew McConaughey Next Generation
Yeah,
movie.
I was
so
gonna
I don't-
say.
it's not a good movie.
No, it's
but it's a
not.
lot of fun to watch. You know, like, so I guess to me, like, a bad Texas Chainsaw movie is still going to be a Texas Chainsaw movie. I'm still probably going to like it.
A bad Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie has me more intrigued to watch than Jungle Cruise.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would
100%.
just like to point out here that as much as we're talking about bad Texas Chainsaw Massacres, a person's name in the industry that you've never brought up a single time here because you're like, it's still a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and that's Michael Bay. The fact that we have Michael Bay produce Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, and you're not like, well, they weren't that bad to the point where you're not bringing up bad Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies.
03 is good.
That's the thing. Michael Bay, I don't like a lot of the horror remakes that he produced, but I do love the Friday the 13th remake, and I love the 03 Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I would say
think,
that
I think
03
the
one is the only
03
one I've seen in the theater, too.
It's good.
yeah, it is. To me, it's up there as like one of the best horror remakes. I really do think
Yeah.
that. And I love the original, but I really do love that 03 remake. It's
Honestly,
pretty
if-
great.
Not to go on a complete tangent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, it's in my top 3 of that
Yeah.
series. Like, I think 1 and 2 are the best, and then that's right
Mhm.
behind them. I think it's
Oh
good.
yeah,
Oh.
for sure.
I'm legit kind of beside myself as much as you like to dog like Michael Bay's Transformers and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All of a sudden you're going,
Michael Bay himself is a freaking horrible director, but
he didn't direct the Teenage Mutant Ninja
No.
Turtles.
Yeah, it
oh,
was.
that's got other problems besides.
I actually like Out of the Shadows. I think that one's kind of fun. It's not perfect, but it's fun.
It's got the Green Arrow.
It's a movie.
I
It doesn't. I wish Casey Jones was in that movie.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. They did kind of. I like Stephen Amell, but they didn't do Casey Jones justice.
Why is he a cop? Why?
He's not. He's a security guard. He wants to be a cop, Casey.
Okay, so
And the cops won't let him be a cop, so he has to be a Ninja Turtle instead.
I had to bring up Michael Bay, didn't I? I had to bring up Michael Bay.
All right. Speaking of things exploding in movies,
Yes, the Expendables 4 is getting some traction with Statham and Stallone and Dolph Lundgren to return to add Megan Fox, 50 Cent, and Tony Jaa.
So I love the
I-
Expendables movies, and I'm stoked for this. And
Well,
the main reason I'm stoked for this is because
Megan
I have
Fox?
read. Well, actually, I love Megan Fox. I wish she was in more stuff. But I'm stoked because, like, they literally, I read somewhere that Statham is kind of going to be the central character of this particular outing. And I know y'all have, like, your Stallone and your stuff. That's why I wasn't on the Arnie Sly show. I know. But, like,
you'll be on the Statham Lundgren show.
yeah, the Statham Lundgren show I need to be on because Statham is like Statham is my Stallone. I grew up watching Statham. I love
We
him.
cannot have you on that show, Sam, because all we would be doing is listening to you and your Statham accent for an hour and a half.
I promise I won't do the Statham accent on the Statham show. Only leading up to it.
I
But
will say,
also, if we do a Statham Lundgren one, 1980s Punisher is going to be on there.
yes.
But is Kindergarten Cop too?
I have not watched Kindergarten Cop 2 because I don't want it to taint my rose gold perception of the original. I love that movie so
because
much.
when I think Kindergarten Cop, I think Dolph Lundgren and Bill Bellamy. The part about this is honestly I want to know where they're going with this, because Megan Fox isn't known for the actions that she's been in action movies, but she's
starting to kind of turn that around. She's got like Midnight in the Switchgrass, Rogue, that other one, Till Death. I know that's kind of more like home invade, but like
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, she's at least been in like action adjacent roles, and I think with Rogue, like I think she's trying to move into that territory. Actually, I think she's trying to do the Charlize Theron route.
She's better fit for action movies, in my opinion.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead route.
Yes, yeah. Which has Kate? When does Kate come out? I can't wait for Kate. Friday. Okay. God, I'm so excited for that.
If it's not this Friday, it's next Friday.
I am. Pump this movie in my veins. Like, give it to me now. Like, please. Well, it's like just keep doing Expendable movies till Stallone is not with us anymore.
Well, there's not a bad Expendables movie. There's just not.
What I want.
There's not a good one either, and that's the charm of this entire series.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're not great movies, but they are popcorn movies. They serve the purpose of what the expectation is. Like when the first Expendables came out, you're like, oh, it's all these 80s and 90s action stars coming together in one great big movie. You know, it wasn't meant to be a good movie. It was meant to blow shit up.
Yep.
And to follow every single trope. And even as much as Expendables 3 fell flat, and I think partly that is simply because the studio's like, we need to make it PG-13. We need to broaden our audience. That was the mistake.
And then it leaked, and there was just a whole bunch of problems with the release of that. I mean,
I don't hate Expendables 3 though.
I don't
hate good stuff in that. Mel Gibson
Mel Gibson's incredible in that movie. He's a horrible person. Don't get me wrong, but he's great in that movie.
I'm just saying is that I think Expendables 3 was a little off kilter because it had to pull back. Compared to what we got out of Expendables 1 and 2, where the blood is literally CGI to 11, kind of thing. But like, the one thing about these three people bringing into the cast so far, though, is I want to see an icon like Jet Li going up against the new icon of Tony Jaa. I want to see Tony Jaa being a bad guy, and I want to see him versus Jet Li.
I hope this one goes R-rated for that purpose of it feels like they're kind of starting to do.
I think they will.
I feel like they're kind of going to revisit this with the young cast coming in. Maybe they're revisiting kind of that core hook that they had with 3, where it's like it's the young versus the old. But we're going to do it a little bit better this time.
Then the question, since we're going to play speculation game, who's the villain? Who would you guys cast as the villain to go up against the Expendables? Because I mean, we had Jean-Claude Van Damme, Mel Gibson, who was in the
Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon needs to be the villain of Expendables 4. And it needs to end with a dance fight between him and Statham.
Wow.
That's my speculation. Stallone, hit me up. I'll write the script. I'll do some rewrites.
I'm trying to figure out.
I'm stoked for this.
Well, I have mine, and mine ties into our movie next week.
Okay.
Liam Neeson.
Hell yeah. God, I could see that being
kind
good.
of the big action star they have not thrown into this series yet of modern times.
That is kind of weird that he's not in these yet.
Old man Liam Neeson as the villain to Stallone, Statham, and Lundgren.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I dig that.
I did want to pull because I was curious because I knew that Stallone wasn't going to get back in the director's chair again. To see who's going to pull this off here.
Well, he might not be sitting in the director's chair.
Stallone makes these movies.
Yeah. But I would just like to point out that we have a he's made a couple few different things. His name is Scott Waugh, however you pronounce that.
Whoa.
But the only big budget thing that I've seen that he's got Act of Valor that he did.
Okay.
But
solid.
Then but then his follow-up to Act of Valor was the Aaron Paul led Need for Speed.
Ah.
So he does.
I never saw that.
Let's throw Aaron Paul in this movie.
Yeah,
why not?
I would be okay with that. I would legit be okay with that because
Could be
I
like
let's
the-
throw
I could see
Rainn
Aaron Paul is
Wilson in this
underrated.
movie.
Who?
Rainn Wilson can be
Rainn Wilson.
He can be one of the henchmen to Liam Neeson.
Yes.
Let's just get one of the Wilson brothers, whether it be Owen or Luke. Like, I don't care.
Okay,
Well,
can we just
after Owen Wilson being in Loki, I just want to see him being some sort of like, paper pusher in the Expendables.
dude, Owen Wilson needs to be in everything. I love Owen Wilson. I always have.
Mm-hmm.
Even his bad movies, like I love him in them,
Yes.
He's just got this like affable, likable quality to him that I'm just like, why is he not in more things? Like, where did Owen Wilson go? When I saw him in Loki, I was like, oh my God, it's good to have you back, Owen. I can't wait. I can't wait for Expendables 4. I can't wait for Owen Wilson to join the Expendables.
Yes, I can't wait to see when they start throwing out more names. Who we're gonna, because they're gonna try to do kind of Expendables 3 and throw in as many people as they can.
Oh, I guarantee you, this is kind of going to be similar to the like Knives Out 2 casting, where we're kind of slowly getting more and more names up until they start filming.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
How many more of Stallone's frequent collaborators as of late will show up, like 50 Cent? Are we going to see Dave Bautista show up in the Expendables?
Oh, hands down, Dave Bautista is just waiting for the phone to ring.
Bautista would be a great villain in an Expendables movie. Give him some like room to stretch his like more dramatic chops and play like a bad guy. I would love that. That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's my new pick, not Kevin Bacon. Dave Bautista needs to be the villain in this.
I could go with that. I could definitely go with that.
We're going to throw Dave Bautista, John Cena, Stone Cold, and The Rock as the villains of this movie against Stallone, Statham, and Lundgren. Make it happen, Hollywood.
God, how much I would actually kind of like to see Dwayne Johnson be straight up villain, not an anti-hero.
Do you think he would ever do
no,
that? No,
he's too good for this movie. Yeah, he's too good for these.
No, I mean like a villain role. Do you think? I think his good guy persona is too important to him. I don't think he'll ever play. I mean, I know he did in Get Smart, but like
he'll play
that was early on though.
He'll play like a
really
fun villain.
Yeah,
like I'm not too evil.
Yeah.
Wait, so he
has to.
He'd be more of a Sam Jackson in the Kingsman kind of villain.
Yeah, I could see that.
Or like Stallone accidentally killed his family and he's getting revenge against just Stallone and crew. Like, I'm not going to blow up the world, but I'm going to kill this guy that killed my family.
Yep.
So sort of a anti-hero-ish. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, so we started bringing up Dwayne Johnson, and it got me thinking about Hobbs and Shaw. Idris Elba would be a really good addition to the Expendables movies.
Yes.
All right, let's quit our speculating because we're literally just throwing actors that have not appeared. Keanu Reeves, throw him in. Make it happen.
Reeves. Alex Winter.
Bill and Ted themselves just show up in this movie.
Samara Weaving.
Well, isn't the Expendables a Lionsgate movie?
Yeah,
I think so.
Well, because it's like Keanu Reeves is in the Lionsgate, because of John Wick, so that's not as far-fetched as it possibly would be.
Maybe John Wick is who they're going up against. We're going full Keanu Sans of Expendables 4 ties into John Wick 4, and he has to fight the Expendables.
That would be about the only way that I would be. I'm not gonna lie, I did not like John Wick 3. I'm not super chomping at the bit for a John Wick 4.
Oh, I am.
But that would be the way to hook me back in.
He fights Stallone and Statham and Dolph Lundgren. Count me in. All right, let's quit our speculating. We're not speculating about what we're doing next week. Next week, we're doing Darkman. We're going to have a massive episode next week. We're going to be joined by the Wednesday Comics crew. So we're going to have we're going to really test the limits of StreamYard. We're going to have a 6-man crew for Darkman next week. So that'll be a blast.
I have to ask, because I remember when we were talking in the chat, when we were first getting this all scheduled or set up and whatnot, and how many of the people in Wednesday Comics that had never seen Darkman, which blows my mind.
I haven't seen Darkman.
I've never seen Darkman either.
Oh my god, I'm in for a fun time. I love it.
I'm excited. I've wanted to watch this one for a while. I just never have gotten around to it. So
Sam Raimi is one of, if not my favorite directors, and I've never seen Darkman.
I already know what my double feature would be for this movie. Oh, look at Sammy.
Oh, we lost Sam. Too bad we lost Sam until next week. No, he'll be back in a second.
He'll be back. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to what everybody's thoughts are on The Darkman, especially with everybody's love for Liam Neeson.
All right, let's jump into the plugs then as we're wrapping up here. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Amazon Music, and on YouTube as well. Brian, where can they find us on social media?
On the social media, check us out at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd HQ. Also on Facebook, on those here, it's all at Backlot 605. Facebook, also join the Southern Film Community Group. Filmmakers, film enthusiasts, I guess you call us film critics at this point. Just everybody enjoying talking about movies, everything like that. Enjoying the conversation.
Yeah.
Sam, I'm gonna give you one of the plugs. Plug our Patreon, Sam.
And you can join us on Patreon for $5 a month. You get 4 bonus episodes a month. And we're going to be doing a Shang-Chi episode pretty soon. We've got the specials coming up that kind of ties in the whole James Gunn thing that we were talking about earlier. We'll be talking Tremors, and we're also going to be talking the new James Wan movie, Malignant, this month. If you want to catch all of that, definitely check out our Patreon. And yeah, that's at Backlot 605 also.
Yep. Yeah.
And one other thing we are going to plug here is us 3 will be participating in a live show at Selfie World in Sioux Falls in the Empire Mall. We're going to be doing our first show from there next Wednesday, the 15th of September. We're going to be putting together our list of the best, our opinions, our picks for movie characters that would have the best Instagram page, tying into the whole Selfie World aspect of the show. So be on the lookout for that. That is a free show coming up next week. Wednesday the 15th at 6 p.m. So be on the lookout, I guess, for that, and then join us there. So join us there. It'll be an hour-long show. It'll be a fun time. Come to listen to us 3 dorks talk about movies.
Yes.
And once again, I guess we'll throw out another shout out to SuperCon that is coming up the first weekend of October. You can get your tickets now at supercon.com. You can do so there. You can buy all your tickets there. You can see Travis Nye there. He's going to be doing all of his great magician stuff that he does. Hopefully not poking a needle through his hand and grossing
I'm glad
out
there
Sam.
were no needles on this episode.
If Travis is going to be doing that, I will jump out of the film festival, drag Sam with me, just to put him right there in front of him and watch Sam squirm all over again.
Hey,
And
you know what? I'd take the needle over the cold call.
That was awkward. Go back to our schmuckies to figure out what we're talking about. But last week's guest, Charlie Eccles, we didn't give him a plug for SuperCon because that was just a bonkers episode. So I'll do it here. You can check out Charlie Eccles at Midwest All Pro Wrestling at SuperCon for Supermania, which is, I believe, Friday night of SuperCon.
Okay.
So you can get tickets for that, I think, on the SuperCon website as well. So you can hear Wrestling Voice 1 in the flesh at that. So
the flesh,
you can do so there, and pretty much every guest that we're having this month will be tied into SuperCon, so we'll be on the lookout for that. And as Brian said, we are going to be having the first ever SuperCon Film Festival that Saturday and Sunday of the festival, the 2nd and 3rd of October, free with paid admission to SuperCon. We have a massive lineup, just confirming a final few things for that. Very excited about that. That's coming up, including we're going to be doing 3 feature films with Q&As. We're going to be doing a filmmaker panel, a live episode of our podcast, a live episode of Andy Heller's Fat Dude Digs Flicks, which we're just confirming the guest of that, which is going to be Nerd, N-U-R/D. Nerd is going to be his guest, who's a friend of SuperCon.
Nice.
I believe he's a musician and
cool.
a comedian, I think, too.
Well, I mean,
that's
I guess
exciting.
A little bit of comedy involved, being the fact that he's usually on stage dressed up as Mario.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. I haven't had the pleasure of knowing much about him. So Andy will give us the full story about Nerd at SuperCon. We're going to be doing, like I said, filmmaker panels, and last but not least, we're going to be doing our After Dark B-movie bash, where we're going to be watching Manos, The Hands of Fate, and destroying that movie, tearing it to shreds. We're going to have prizes for that, some giveaways. So yeah, that'll be coming up again first weekend of October. Very much looking forward to that. So gentlemen, do you have anything else you'd like to throw out there before we end this episode here?
Nah, man, that's got it pretty much covered.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
So
Check out Manos, The Hands of Fate, and the rest of the film festival with us. It'll be a good time.
let me trust you. Every other movie is much better than Manos, The Hands of Fate. So
Yeah.
just throw that out there as well.
I'm so glad I suggested that.
We are definitely playing much better movies than Manos, The Hands of Fate, but it'll be fun
We've
to
got
watch
some
that nonetheless.
bangers in the lineup.
We sure do. So be on the lookout for that coming up here at the beginning of next month. But for Sam Lenz, Brian Mensing, I'm Casey Calderman. We'll check you out next week on the Backlot of South Dakota.